Hi, I'm Sug.
And I'm Dan.
This is the Demystified Zone.
Halloween edition.
Hey listeners, today's episode has some sensitive information that may not be appropriate for all audiences. Thanks for listening. Welcome back, Dan.
Welcome back to you as well.
Here today is our spooky Halloween. Do you like Halloween?
I am indifferent.
What?
Yeah, my kids are starting to get into it.
Starting? They're like old.
I know.
What do you mean starting?
My boys, for some reason, would never want to put on a Halloween costume. Ever.
Do they not like
recently.
candy? What?
They took the fruits of Halloween without, putting in the work.
Did they
just
not understand?
Showed up in their jackets, their parkas.
What? Yeah. Did the boring kids that would show up with nothing on? How could you let this happen?
I tried to coerce them, but they just they just did not like dressing up. It's not like a cool thing for them. It wasn't a cool thing for them either. Like, I'm too cool for this. They were very young. I think they were just uncomfortable with the thought of masquerading as other things.
They wanted to keep it real. That's what your children are about, keeping it real.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that makes me say I love Halloween. Halloween is my second favorite holiday, only second to Thanksgiving because of the food. I'm a very food guy. Food first, then scare me.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Are you a fan of like horror movies or scares? Ghost stories, that kind of thing? Yeah,
I'm not a fan, but I never... I don't seek out horror movies because my wife doesn't like them. But I'd like to be scared too. We recently saw Hitchcock's The Birds with my kids. And they all slept in our bed with us after that.
And were they like terrified of going outside after watching that?
No, it was just, the movie is so awesome because it just makes you scared of everything. It just makes you scared of like a presence, you know? It's so effective in that way.
It is a masterful movie.
Oh my God.
For our younger listeners that think you're too cool or too modern for old classics, you need to watch Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, one of the best.
Yeah, and warning to you, they have some puppet birds in there. You could see the string sometimes. It's not great
it's okay.
Special effects.
Don't tell them that. Let them just be absorbed by the movie. Now you're giving them expectation.
Sorry.
It's okay. Well, okay. We at least, you grew up with ghost stories and things, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Give us the scariest ghost story or the thing that rocked you the most growing up, or maybe even as an adult. Give us the short version, though, obviously. What's the story that got you?
I have a personal ghost story.
A real ghost story?
I do.
Yes. Okay.
I love if ghost stories. A ghost or not?
Okay, please.
Okay, all right.
Set us up.
All right. So the year was 1995, I believe.
Put some eerie music in the edit right now. Okay?
All right. Okay. The year was 1995. 2 young high school seniors in Glenview, Illinois. It was a Sunday night, and it was the night before like a Monday holiday. I don't remember what holiday.
Were they a couple?
What?
You said 2 high school seniors.
Yeah, me.
Boyfriend, girlfriend?
I did not have a girlfriend.
Okay, it's 2 dudes.
School. 2 dudes.
Okay.
With nothing to do. 1995, pre-internet for largely. We didn't have anything to do late on a Sunday night. Just driving around Glenview, Illinois. We were driving down Milwaukee Avenue, and there's this place called The Grove there. It's like a historic. It was one of the first houses in that town, and
ripe for haunting. Ripe for haunting.
Colonial. You go there for field trips where you see how they lived before electricity. right? Industrialization. But kids at our school would tell us like, hey man, there's this ghost there, right?
All right.
And it's this woman, she's in this dress, and we talked to her.
Okay.
Right? And so cut back to 1995, that night, we're driving past it, and we're like, we both heard the story, so we're like, should we? And finally, all of a sudden, the car started U-turning and veering towards that place.
Okay.
Gate was open. Walking, so from Milwaukee Avenue, it's a big street. The house is set back in a big field. It takes like maybe a quarter mile to get to the actual house, but it's wooded area, dirt road. Driving down that dirt road
at night,
we see a woman.
Where?
Just walking towards. We're walking away from Milwaukee Avenue.
Okay, you guys were not in the car?
We were in the car, yeah.
You're driving down this long driveway towards the house in the car.
Yeah. And this woman is walking in the other direction.
Towards you? Or away from you?
Towards us.
Did you see her face?
Yes.
What was she wearing?
She's wearing like this. It wasn't like an old dress. It was, what you would wear for a wedding. A woman would wear for going to a wedding. You know, not her getting married.
Yeah,
right.
A nice outfit.
Nice outfit, yeah.
Dated?
No, it wasn't dated.
So it's modern for the time.
Yeah, I think so. It didn't look like she was wearing anything colonial. I don't remember exactly what she was wearing.
Did you speak to her? What happened?
Okay, so we see this image of this woman, and we're like, you see that? Yeah. You see that? Yeah. Should I turn around? No, I don't know. And it was like, we couldn't like even have a conversation, right? We're just so frightened.
How old were you again?
It's high school seniors.
Okay. Seniors? Wow, you're old.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't every day where we saw a ghost.
I mean, okay, but was it a ghost? We'll see. Yeah. What happened? Please.
I don't know. So she was walking towards us. You know, our vectors were going in opposite direction, and we passed her. She didn't look at us. She just kept
drove
on
by her.
Yeah. She kept on walking towards the street. We drove up to a cul-de-sac, turned around, and just jetted out of there.
But you guys didn't even she was like right next to your car then.
Yeah.
You didn't like open your window and like talk?
What? Scared.
Why wouldn't you?
We're so scared.
Wait, I'm so. What did she look like? Did she look like she was scarred? Did she look normal?
No,
was she wearing
normal.
Shoes?
I didn't look
What
at her
did she
shoes.
just wanted to ride? Like, what did what was her face like?
It was like midnight, and there's a woman
I know.
at this old house walking to a street that's usually busy but completely empty. I ain't stopping to talk to nobody, man. I'm sorry.
You're in Glenview, though.
In Glenview, yeah, it's a safe place from crime, but is it a safe place from ghosts? I don't know. Like these are all, I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed in you, but
You know,
we were different kids.
there's lots of people disappointed
as
at
seniors. We were different kids because
No, I
I'm out of the
think
car all day.
Really?
All day, yeah.
I would
be testing. I would be
never
testing
stop.
that to its limits.
So my friend who I went with, and we're still friends, and to this day, he just will not talk about it. He
won't talk about it. Okay, we need to get him on.
I was like,
and I want to vet this.
I was
story
like, hey man,
with him.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't want to talk about it. I was like, hey man, you remember, right? He's like, I don't want to talk about it, man. I remember, but I don't want to talk about it. We were freaked out.
I need to get another. That's great that there are two people. Okay, that's it for
Mike. You've seen him talk about it, right? Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I will get it from him. That's going to be our Christmas episode. We're talking about the ghost of Glenview. Oh, that's a good title.
Christmas Past.
There you go. Ghost of Glenview. Christmas Past. Yo, that's a great ghost story, Dan.
You know, to this day, like my kids want to. they know I have a ghost story.
Yeah.
But I refuse to tell
Why not?
them.
That's fun. Spoken as a true man with no children. I'm like, tell them. It's fun.
Yeah, they couldn't even take birds.
Well, now if they listen to the podcast, they're going to know the story.
They stopped.
They lost interest? Oh.
They stopped. We've lost our audience.
That's a great story.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good. So that night, like driving home.
Wait. Let me clarify something.
Yeah.
So you turned around and she was just gone?
No. She was. We passed her on our way out too.
You passed her 2 times.
And probably dirt and rocks kicking up at her.
And then what? Like,
so we just drove home. We literally, I think we were like breathless driving out of there, jetting out of there. Once we got back on Milwaukee, we were like, like holding hands, like, oh my gosh.
I am.
And no, I was going to say, they were like, we had car mirrors back then, but we both were like looking back, to see if she was like chasing after us. We're like going like 80 miles an hour down this road. And we're like,
okay. My disappointment in you is growing so much right now. Like, I'm so frustrated right now that you passed her 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
And the second time, did you see her again on the second time?
Yeah.
Was there anything different about her? Did she change her demeanor? Did she look at y'all?
I don't know.
Was her face messed up or anything? Or like any scars on her hands? Did she look pale? Did she look dead?
So we went back one day.
No. I'm talking about in the moment.
No, I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay,
I don't remember that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we went back like months later.
Months later?
Yeah, when it was safe. During the day.
Of course.
It was, we had a fresh snow. And we're like, okay, we gotta just redeem ourselves or something. I don't know why we went back, but we were going up that dirt road again towards the house. It was during the day, in the afternoon, and it was snowing. And from one of the trees, like a huge thing of snow just fell on my car and it freaked us out. It was like we were driving down. It was like, boom. And then we got up to the cul-de-sac and realized, flat tire. She struck again. You
guys are like the 2 dudes that are dying first in the horror movie. You guys are going first.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're also the entertainment factor too. So maybe not. Your reactions are what we live for.
Yeah, I mean those kids at school, they supposedly talked to her.
That's a great ghost story.
Yeah, and
I have a lot of speculation, or I'm not saying that's speculation, doubts.
Yeah,
about your story, but not the realness of it, whether she's a ghost or not.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, could have just been a woman who.
Yeah,
but like I've Googled stuff like, suburban Chicago ghost stories or whatever, right?
Okay.
You would, because there's a bunch of like legends of,
sure.
On certain nights, certain roads. Nothing. I could not find any information about this one.
Either way, we spent way too much time talking about this. Listeners, I apologize. No, we're fine. I kept it going because it is a very good story, and
Thank you.
And I invited it, honestly. So I said sure, but it was a good story. I really like that story. It leads us to our topic today, folks. We're going to talk about Halloween in the spirit of Halloween, which I love. We're talking about North Korea and spooky things about North Korea. But before we get into that, I just want to say again, just a warning here. Okay, we're about to talk about spooky and scary stuff, but we understand that North Korea is already full of real life horrors and terrors that are heartbreaking. And we acknowledge that from where we sit, we have to seek out these scares because our lives are boring enough that at least mine is, to require that.
Yeah.
So I acknowledge that. And then even more so today, as we speculate about North Korea, please just join us in this posture of acknowledging this perspective, right? And then also,
if you're listening to this, you're right there with us, right?
Yes.
We all sit in a seat where we can choose to go into that world.
Yes.
Totally.
So just know that we acknowledge that. Don't send us angry emails, okay? So I want to just kind of kick off with, obviously, whenever you're information gathering anything about North Korea, it's very difficult because there's not a lot of information, let alone vetted information, especially on the internet.
Yeah.
It's rare that we'll come across an authentic, real story like Glenview ghost woman. But I wanted to ask you a question. Has anything in your interactions with refugees, with people from North Korea who have lived there, have you ever come across anything kind of like paranormal or a little odd, maybe fantastical in the story, even maybe how they told it, that kind of made you go, I wonder what they meant by that, or maybe even had some glimmer of
nothing really sticks out to me on that vein. I like we said, their stories are horrific to begin with. A lot of them will say, looking back, I truly believe that it was God who kept me alive and saved me from the situation, things like that. But nothing like paranormal.
Nothing paranormal or even like fantastical of like ghost stories or even like fables. Were there any lore or fables that might have came out like people would tell in North Korea?
No, I've never heard anything like that. We're too busy talking about like
other than the lore of anti-aircraft missiles coming for you.
Well, I mean,
lest you be turned in by the note takers.
No, I haven't heard anything of the paranormal vein.
Okay, which is interesting. Again, that might be coming from our seat of not being in horrors all the time, and that's real life horrors are enough, right? You don't need the fantastical.
Yeah, maybe. But I'm sure there's plenty of those types of stories, though.
So after doing some digging, and I just wanted to see if you had anything before I get into this. So there was one story, of like it's a monster story. Okay, it's called the Lake Tianchi or Tian. I don't know if you can look it up there. Yeah, the wiki here. If you guys look up Lake Tianchi monster,
we'll have a link in our notes.
We'll have a link. You can just wiki it or Google it rather. So just to synopsize what you're seeing here.
Yeah.
There are reports. So there is the border of North Korea on China on the northern side of North Korea. Mm-hmm. It's this area called Chunji. Are you familiar? There is a lake called Heaven Lake. Mm-hmm. That's what it's roughly translated as. Located at the peak of Baekdu Mountain, which is these mountain ranges again that border North Korea and China.
Mount Baekdu is the mountain that supposedly Kim Jong-il was born on under a double rainbow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So there's some lore there. Okay, so if he was born there, then apparently this monster maybe was sent to guard him or something, or maybe it raised him. But there are sightings of these monsters, both on the Chinese side, or mostly from the Chinese side rather, because there's no reports coming out from North Korea about this. But that there are these here. So you can kind of see right there. The monsters are these large buffalo-like creatures that can swim and go in the water. So I'm guessing they're maybe kind of like hairy and like, furry Yeti type monsters that go in the water. There's more than 100 people have reported sightings. People have described it having a human-like head attached to a 5-foot long neck. So it's a really odd looking
buffalo body.
Yeah.
Brontosaurus neck.
Yes.
With a human head. Okay.
Yes.
So, Mike, you've been to Baekdu, right? Have you seen any of these creatures?
Maybe they were just saying Mike. Mike's kind of got those features. He's got a big buffalo body. He's got a long, thin neck.
Yeah.
And a beautiful face. Beautiful white face.
Yeah.
So, this is the monster story of, and again, I don't even know if this is a North Korean. This sounds like more of a Chinese actually, but it's on that North Korean side. So maybe that makes it more fantastical for them.
I see. So Chinese people coming, because this mountain is on the border.
Yeah.
So climbing the mountain, looking over to the North Korea side, and in the North Korean side, they see. Yeah.
And then they saw Mike down there and they're like, oh my God, a monster. So some of these reports are really funny, actually. So if you hold it right there, Mike, they could swim as fast as yachts, and they would disappear in the water. It was impressive to see them acting all exactly at this. So they were synchronized swimming.
Oh.
They're synchronized swimmer monsters.
Oh.
And then they had fins, possibly wings, which were longer than their bodies. So this is like a chimera or a griffin, right? This thing just keeps getting more.
It just keeps on growing.
Different features.
Different features, yes.
So it's kind of a Loch Ness meets unicorn meets Yeti.
Yeah, Pegasus.
Yeah. That's my unicorn. Oh, I guess unicorns don't fly. They just got the horn.
No, they fly.
I think unicorns.
No.
Well, it depends which kind of unicorn you're talking about. Anywho, this is the Lake Tianchi monster. This is like the only thing I could really find. And again, this is maybe more Chinese than North Korean. So maybe, the North Korean monster or lore is a little bit harder to at least suss out and understand, like, what is it, right? But that doesn't stop us, okay? Because in South Korea, we are very ripe with many horror stories. I don't know how many of you are fans of South Korean cinema, but one of our first marquees before Squid Games and all those other grades came out. I mean, Squid Games comes from this. It's like our propensity for drama, and particularly in the horror genre. How many Korean horrors have you watched?
I've never watched a Korean horror story.
Really?
But
you don't like horror, though?
Yeah, I don't go seeking that out.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it myself.
Yeah, sort of.
And I didn't run away.
I
drove away.
You drove away. Oh, man. But I have watched a lot of Korean horrors. I love the Korean horror genre. One of the more famous, this is actually Japanese and Korean horror are very similar.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about what Korean horror is like. So there's like 5 ghost stories that Koreans/Asians, which are very similar, tell, right?
Yeah.
And Mike's got them up there. So the first is like this thing called mulgishin. So kishin is just like ghost. And these are the ghost stories I remember as a kid that like used to freak me out. These Korean ghost stories about the kishin. So for those,
I've heard Korean ghost stories.
Okay, yeah.
Growing up.
Yeah, like and so a kishin is a ghost, and usually it takes form of this second. So Murgo Kishin is a water ghost, basically someone who died near water. But the next one is the one that most popular is called Chanya Kishin, or virgin ghost, which is like a young woman who failed to fulfill her Confucian responsibility of obeying her father or her husband or son, and then consequently she seeks revenge from the grave.
Oh.
So that's like the most popular version of Korean ghost story. Every ghost story I've heard is always this type, whether I knew it or not.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's always a woman.
Well, and it's always like, so for our listeners out there who've never watched, if you're like one of the most popular ones in America is like The Grudge or The Ring, which are actually Japanese Kishin stories, but that's a Kishin too. It's like this woman or young girl who's all pale white and long black hair covering their face. It can kind of be maybe like compared to like a banshee and other lore and horror. But anyway, so that's like the most popular one I remember growing up on and being terrified with. But then there's a couple others that are kind of fun. The Talgyal Kishin, which is an egg ghost. Face of this ghost resembles an egg, which explains the name. People around when it was alive, so after death, no human essence was left. So it's like an egg ghost. I don't know, that's weird. Egg ghost. The next one's kind of funny. It's Chukshin Kishin, outhouse god. Which it makes sense. It says outhouses are dark and isolated places separate from the main house, so they were considered scary.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And where unusual events occurred.
I see.
And then this is why people also thought they were haunted. And they also smelled bad. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
And then the last one is the Kekwi Kishin. Sorry for my pronunciation. Which is also a very popular one. Haunted spirit person who tragically died from far from home, and they're trying to get back, or they're trying to terrorize their families because they never left. That's your ghost. That's Glenview ghost.
Yeah,
she's going somewhere. She's walking.
So I should have asked her: are you a techie or are you a Talgyal?
Does this have to do with an outhouse?
There was an outhouse in that place.
Was there?
I believe.
Maybe it was then. Yeah. It could have. She could have. Did she look Asian? What were her features like?
I don't remember.
Well, so these are all like these different Korean, well, South Korean, it's just like very specific ghosts. I would assume, again, we're going to get into assumptions here, that North Korea has some type of ghost. I feel like almost every society, no matter how oppressed, has phenomenon or paranormal stories.
I'm sure.
Even if it's like on whatever side, like even when you mentioned like the refugees you interviewed having faith in a God that probably rescued them, right?
Right.
Or gave them solace or comfort.
Mm-hmm.
So even in those stories, do you feel like, has that come out more of like maybe even a spiritual encounters?
Yeah, I mean, so many of them have faced like the point of death during the famine. You know, it's always like, if you're fleeing North Korea, it's out of utter desperation, usually, right? Like, well, I'm going to die here anyway, so I might as well try to leave. I feel like when you get to that point, it does get a little mystical, or, you know, like Western culture, as removed from any like spiritual type of influence as it is, it's still like weird things happen at the point of death, right? I see all white. I'm like walking towards the light, right? There's always stories like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, you hear that all the time. Like, I was at the point of death. Some strength came over me, or something told me that I needed to walk. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that pretty common amongst the stories?
And again,
yeah,
are so varied. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I'm speaking to mostly people who have converted to Christianity. So in that light, they'll tell very spiritualized versions of their story. Yeah.
Yeah. And which is actually a common, I don't want to say trope, but like a method of even like horror or scary storytelling of like people in the darkest times or most desperate times will experience the most supernatural things, whether light or dark.
Yeah, definitely.
And which is interesting because to me, like it's a good feelings horror story coming out. It's one of those with a happy ending, which I don't know if that's, you can call it horror if it has a happy ending. You probably can. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, what they were experiencing, I mean, you know, the famine, it sounded like, you know, The Walking Dead, right? Like zombies just searching for something to eat.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, their reality in and of itself was like a horror film.
Yeah, for sure.
During the famine.
And we've talked about that, how like North Korea in certain ages of its time has looked like a post-apocalyptic world. Definitely. For example, when we talked about like the currency reform and the riots were happening, people were getting kidnapped, murdered in the streets. It was like a purge, basically.
Yes.
Everything was on the loose, right?
Yeah. I mean, here's another like kind of freaky thing about the famine during that time, right? People were just roaming the countryside in search for anything to eat. A lot of them, they gathered at train stations, right? And, you know, people have been asked, like, why the train station? And they were just like, it was just something to do other than food, is to like watch these trains come in and out, you know?
That's creepy.
And so a lot of people, like in their zombie-like state, go to the train station and just like watch the trains go by.
Oh my gosh, that would be terrifying to see if you don't understand the context.
Right. And in these train stations, bodies would be piled up because there were so many people. It's just something to do.
Wait, bodies as in dead bodies?
Dead bodies, yeah.
What? And they would just die there?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is really creepy.
See, that's the thing, right?
But like yeah.
You ask about, did they talk about these things? No, like their existence
yes.
in and of itself was crazy.
Yeah.
Right. It was horror.
That is, it truly is, because whenever you see, even here, like whenever I see something, like if I see a bunch of people massing up and I don't understand why,
Mm-hmm.
it's terrifying, like even if it could be for like something normal, like a marathon or something, and I don't understand what's happening,
I see.
and I just see like, if I see 50 people running towards me, like in a marathon, that I don't know what's happening, it's like, I'm terrified. It's like, okay, I gotta run too. But that context, I mean, that's even more terrifying of like, of the reality and the darkness behind that reality too, of like not only understanding, well, why are these people gathering here? And they look probably, emaciated, and like you said,
no shoes, probably tattered clothing. I mean, that's a horror film right there.
That is.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality that, wow, that's.
And part of the reason why in the further away you got from Pyongyang during the famine, part of the reason why these guys weren't delivering food out there was because they didn't want to get mobbed, right? Like these truck drivers.
By hungry, starving people.
Yeah, right? They're these like scary looking people, like who are hungry, see a truck of food. What are they going to do to me?
Yeah.
Right? So after a while, these drivers who were getting paid, it's communism, right? So you're getting paid no matter what, they stopped making deliveries because it got so scary for them.
Yeah. That is terrifying. Were there reports of like cannibalism during that time? I'm sure it happened when people starve. It just happens.
I've heard stories.
Even more terrifying for the truck drivers who look healthy and fat driving in with all the food, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. They probably heard these stories too about these outer regions.
Yeah.
Like, I heard a story of, it's always someone's neighbor. They never said a personal story. And
a good friend of mine.
Yeah, right. But who would ever admit to
for sure
like that? But someone told me that their neighbor, they had a fire going in their house, and they were so hungry that the child that was walking around was pushed into the fire and was consumed, and you heard a scream when they realized what they did, right? Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I ate this child or something.
Oh, when you say consumed, like they were eaten.
The child was eaten.
Okay, not consumed by the flames. Consumed by the flames and then eaten.
And then consumed.
Oh my God.
By a person, yeah. I mean.
Oh my God.
That's what we're dealing with here, right?
Yeah.
And again, we're two American dudes. I could definitely stand to lose some weight. And I'm talking about this.
Speaking for both of us.
Well, yeah. And you look good.
Thank you.
But these are luxuries, right, that we have as people who have grown up in the West, right? Like these are luxuries that we've had where we don't, there's no way we can completely relate to these people because of that, right? We've been so far removed from that point, right? That point of utter desperation. I can't really judge anyone if they told me that they had to eat another human being.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do in that same situation.
Yeah. And that's, again, it's like, I definitely feel some shame that I enjoy horror so much, but then these people live horror. But then I also, in some respects, maybe can at least at a very small level understand or what it may look like, at least, even though Hollywood is Hollywood. I understand that. But like, it reminds me of the movie The Road. Did you ever watch The Road?
No,
with Viggo Mortensen.
Dude, your catalog of obscure movies is crazy. Go ahead.
I think it's not obscure. It was a really,
really?
Yeah, it was a big release. I think your catalog is really, really dry and small, but it's okay. It's a post.
Let's talk about The Rock. That's all I know. It's The Rock.
Your catalog only consists of 90s action films. 80s and 90s action films. But anyway, it was a book about post-apocalypse. And then it's about this man who meets this young girl, and then he like saves her, and then they travel together through this post-apocalyptic world. And basically they run into like cannibals. They run into, and it's not like fantastical in terms of like radioactive people or like, it's just people. And that's why it's like a terrifying book and movie. It's like people at their worst. So like they come across a house of people who are basically cannibalizing their neighbors. Yeah. But then it's like, it's a really jarring scene, and like, it's terrifying when you're watching the movie, but then it's funny when you're talking about that, like it reminded me of that movie. Yeah. But then, and like how I felt, cause it's a serious movie. It's not like Walking Dead's serious too, but it's not like Walking Dead's a little fantastical, you know? But this is like a more real portrayal of humanity, of like, what would we do? You know?
I mean, you know, I think we got like just a peek into the covers with the pandemic, right? Like, like that veil was like just like a little shard of light, a little stream of light came through that, where we were looking at like, okay, what if this thing was killing 10% of everyone, right? Who got it? What would happen then? Like, would grocery stores be open? Probably not. And then what would happen to our society, right? Yeah. Like, it's really frightening. It was really frightening to think about that, but we came nowhere near that, right?
Exactly. Even just like the idea of like people hoarding. Yeah. That is a response to your
perceived thing of scarcity, right?
If you're willing to take all the bounty or all the charm and fluff out of a store shelf so no one else can have it, what else are you capable of doing? You know, like that escalation.
Right. That was step one, right? If it got worse, then we would have gone down the rabbit hole. Yeah. I think a lot of people thought about that during the pandemic. And in many ways, in that way, I think it's a good thing, right? Because we do need to see, like, we live in a very sterile society. I think for me, being reminded of North Korea every day, it's a good reminder that, hey man, you know, like things could go really, really bad, and you have to sort of not so much be prepared for it, but just mentally know that the human beings that we see every day could turn very quickly, and appreciate what you have, and also, you know that it can go there.
This is a great note and a great word for us to transition to something a little lighter here.
All right, fine.
And as always, trying to connect culturally to North Korea. They have their own horrors for sure. And they
definitely.
Honestly, I would love the easy low-hanging fruit for me here is in any society and culture, I always want to know what like the local lore or fables are. Right? And this is a terrible example, but like South Koreans, and I don't know them enough, but I just remember like parents telling me if I sleep with the fan on my face all night, I'm going to die. Yeah. Right? Like it's a really dumb one, but one that's told to many Korean American households.
Just ask your local Korean friend. They will tell you.
Electric fan on your face all night to keep you cool. You're dead. You're dead. So I'd love North Korea, if you're listening, just to know like what are the stories you tell children, even if they're bad stories about the American monsters that'll eat your babies. You know what I mean? Like I think that's an interesting story. Honestly, it's a different perspective.
It is.
Right? Isn't that a thing that happens too?
Yeah, the Americans are baby eating monsters.
Yeah, like I would love to hear the narrative behind it. Like where did we come from? Why are we like that? Why do we do that?
Yeah, is there an origin story?
Yeah, what's the origin story? What's the
super villain? Yeah.
So North Korea, would love to hear your stories. Yeah. Like in general, obviously there are a lot of bad stories we hear, but there's got to be some kind of lore or fable also, even if it's about the great leader and how he can shoot 18 hole-in-ones in one game. I don't really care for that one, but maybe there's more. Like the Born Under, what was that?
Double Rainbow, Kim Jong-il.
Born Under Double Rainbow.
Born under double rainbow at Mount Baekdu.
With the Tianchi buffalo monsters gathered around. we should just add to the lore of that. The monsters, the buffalo monsters, were gathered around doing a synchronized swimming routine,
right?
Which they're very good at, North Koreans. Those synchronized routines.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
North Korea. That's a free one. That one's for free. Send us more.
I would love to write further lore on Kim Jong-il. I would love to. I think that would be
some fan fiction. Yeah.
I'm not a fan, but yeah.
Well,
some
you are
fiction.
You are in a way.
Yeah. In some weird way.
In the amount of information you know about this man, you are a fan.
That's true. I am.
Okay, pitch us on a Kim Jong-il ghost story. Go.
A Kim Jong-il ghost story. All right. How about this? On the golf course, if you shoot above a 80, let's say, on the golf course, he will come and take your naengmyeon afterwards. I don't know.
He'll take your naengmyeon. That's the depth of his darkness is just eat your food. He's a food stealer.
I'm sorry, I'm not this horror guy like you are, man.
I think we just take your story, we turn to Kim Jong-il's story. We just say, if you cross that border, a woman will come walking towards your car. Don't stop the car. If you stop the car, she will think you're inviting her in, and she'll come in, and she'll pull out an anti-aircraft missile weapon and shoot you and whoever else is in the car.
A spiritual anti-aircraft weapon.
Yes. Yeah. You must keep driving. Don't turn back. Don't look back. Don't look at anything. Just no eye contact. Keep going.
You got to keep walking, man.
Or else the ghosts of Kim Jong-il will come and bomb your car. That's a great story.
It is. It is.
Tell your children. Let's spread it now. Tell your children that story tonight.
I'll record it. I'll record their reaction. How about that?
Please. Hey, we all know Koreans love spam, just not in the form of emails. Crossing Borders loves to send awesome, non-spammy emails that give you all the information you want on what's happening to North Korean refugees. If you want it, go to crossingbordersnk.org and give us that email. Seriously, it's better than real spam.